Guys, the next performer coming to the stage, she's obsessed with cats, especially ones that have no tails. Put your hands together right now for Kelley Freeman, ladies and gentlemen. Kelley Freeman.
I'm going to take off my shoes because my grandmother used to do this after she had 3 martinis. Also, I made my slippers myself. Alright, I want to tell you a dream that I had like yesterday morning about cats. Yeah, okay. It was a 9-minute nightmare. I fell asleep like 10:37 and woke up like 9 minutes later, so it was a really weird dream. And her set was not actually comedy, it was a burlesque song and dance number, and I had mutual friends writhing around on the ground in corsets, and it was horrifying. So, I'm really glad that didn't actually happen. But, yeah, okay, so, I'm an atheist. That in and of itself is not particularly interesting, I guess. But I've only been in Columbia for, okay, I guess it's almost been 7 years. There we go. I moved here 7 years from Georgia, like Atlanta area, so it was like a little bit more metropolitan. And the first question I got when I moved here wasn't like, hey, so why'd you move to Columbia, or how you're liking in the area. It was, oh, have y'all found a new church home? Which I think was kind of terrifying. So in response, I didn't say yes or no. I said, actually, I'm Jewish, thanks. Because Judaism, it's close enough where they'll still talk to you, but different enough where they don't know enough to ask questions. It's that Judeo-Christian part. But it was really interesting because people would respond with, you don't really look Jewish, in which, like, I would start responding with, like, just throwing out Jewish terms like Ashkenazi, or Sephardic, or Hasidic, or Orthodox, and it worked. But the weird thing is, I also got Jewish jokes directed at me, and one dude called me his little Jewess. Pro tip, don't do that! That's like calling your like black friend my little negress. That's really outdated, and it's also really racist, and it's also just kind of creepy. But there was this one guy who was nicknamed Hairy Johnny. His name was not Harold John, he was Johnny, and he was really hairy, like a human carpet. It was kind of like, if you like, when it rained and he shook, it was like dog. It was weird. He also kind of smelled like a dog. But Johnny was a neo-Nazi, and I was a self-identified Jewish communist at this point. And Johnny thought it was a good idea to ask me out, and I'm sad to say it was a love that was never meant to be, mostly because I said no. But what's interesting about this is I know a lot of Jewish jokes. I'm sure you all do. There's Catholic jokes, black jokes. But as an atheist, there's actually not that many atheist jokes, but I do know one. How do you know a vagina's an atheist? How? It doesn't believe in the second coming! Ah! Yeah, so speaking about vaginas, I was in Vagina Monologues, I guess it was 2 weekends ago, so I've been thinking about vaginas a lot. Like you do. But more specifically, I've been thinking about periods. I started thinking about like why they're called periods, because I kind of hate the word period, kind of like how I hate the word like puberty while I was going through it. And it turns out periods are called periods because they're periodical. Pretty straightforward. I also think that like most euphemisms of periods are dumb, like it's my time of the month where I'm not feeling my best because I'm bleeding out of my vagina. But some people like to call it Aunt Flo. I prefer Captain Bloodsnatch. So I have a list of other euphemisms that are a lot more colorful, and that color is red. For those of you who use tampons, you may prefer to say that you're riding the cotton pony. In Denmark, they say the communists are in the funhouse. I like that one because I'm a Russian major. Also, I like the idea of like Lenin and Trotsky like with wacky mirrors. In French, they say that the English have arrived. Something waving white flags, bloods on sheets, I don't know. The English are flying the Japanese flag. That one requires some historical knowledge, because you need to know what the Japanese flag looks like. It's red. Some people call it Shark Week, which makes Tracy Morgan's Live Every Week Like It's Shark Week a lot more terrible. I think dishonorable discharge from the uterine navy is a nice one. But my favorite has got to be Alabama is playing a home game. Because they're the Crimson Tide and they're playing down south. Alright, so now we're going to talk about period sex. Deal with it! You know what? It's not that bad. Put down a goddamn towel. I mean, honestly, like, what man doesn't want to look at you? He's killed another man with his dick. Yeah, think about it. So, I mean, honestly, guys, like, ride the Crimson Tide and make those red coats come. I like the groans, actually. And honestly, like, while you're at it, if you get head, I'm gonna give you the red badge of courage, and I'll make any man an Eagle Scout. And for any man who decides to, like, brave this, I'm gonna give you a few pickup lines to use. Hey, baby, you from Detroit? You look like a Red Wings fan. How about you work like Moses and part my Red Sea? How about we check into the Red Roof Inn? Why does it smell like a fish kill? I bet it's the red tide. Probably shouldn't use that. Okay, and just point of information, when you're thinking about the vagina, it's actually the vulva, that includes like the labia majora, the minora, the clit, and I call mine the flower patch. And speaking of vaginas, I, like most people my age, have a roommate. He's actually the first person I've lived with that I haven't dated, or was my family, I guess. And he's an interesting character, you could say. He smokes a lot of weed, like most roommates, I guess. But what's really interesting is he's not really well-versed in food, and I really like food. Like, I came home with, I was like, hey, I got butter, and he's like, I already have butter in there, and he said, it's country crock, and I'm like, that's not butter, that's margarine. And I had a roommate that literally couldn't believe it wasn't butter. And then he had some really great quotes after that. He's like, it's like I'm living in a post-margarine world. I need to go make actual toast now. And then he's like, one day you're going to tell your children about your roommate who couldn't believe it wasn't butter. And I'm going to leave you guys with some food thoughts. They're not particularly funny, but I just want to voice my thoughts about food, because I think a lot about food, because I like to eat it. I think about pancakes a lot, and how there's cakes made in a pan. But I'm wondering if you can use cake batter to make pancakes. That means you can have like funfetti pancakes, or red velvet pancakes. I know. I don't know if this works, but I'll report back to you. And what would cotton candy be like if it didn't have any flavor? It'd be like eating cobwebs. It's just like that. And I will admit that I did eat butter as a child. I'm just kidding, I did. I have friends who are allergic to bananas, and that's really, no, that's weird! It's like, didn't you know you evolved from goddamn apes? Like, who the fuck's allergic to bananas? And also, I feel like there should be a chocolate spread that is like peanut butter, but chocolate. And I don't mean like Nutella, I mean like chocolate spread. Then you can have like peanut butter chocolate sandwich. Think about it. And so the other day I made mac and cheese with almond milk, and I was like, vegan! And then I was like, but there's bacon. And cheese. I can't vegan. I'm Kelley.
Keep it going for Kelley Freeman, ladies and gentlemen.